Yes, please.
Ooh, Atlanta up 14-7.
Oh, Atlanta play. Oh yeah, Sunday football's on. Yeah, who they playing?
Kansas City.
Anyways, what's going on, guys? What's going on? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show for sorry, for QQ, the two man front with your boy Be Easy and your boy The Fog from Addictedly Biased Sports. We have a special guest. If you see him, you might look familiar because he looks like Fog. It is David Fog Meg, the younger brother of Fog Meg of Addictedly Biased Sports. And he has come in to he has some very nice words. He promised he'll be nice to Bryce Young, very nice words when it comes to Bryce Young and what's going on. We'll talk about that. Let's just go through the rundown. Let's go through. Oh, of course, please subscribe to our YouTube page. Thank you guys who have been subscribing so far and to our pages. We'll get that QR code at the end for our personal pages. And of course, here's the rundown. Immediate week 3 reaction. Again, another wild week in the NFL. And we got some immediate reaction of the early games, the 1 o'clock games and the 4 o'clock games, depending on what time zone you are on. And of course, 3-0 teams. There are 3 teams remaining. Who are the pretenders and who are the contenders? Are there any contenders from the 3-0 teams? We'll talk about that in a minute. And of course, Fogg and I will talk about our Steelers and Eagles victories today. And I got a lot to say. David Fogg makes it help me out on our win today. Happy, but not happy all at the same time. But let's just jump right into it. So, guys, like I literally just put together some memes and stuff like that. I want to get your take. Fogg, we'll start with you. Big Fogg, we'll start with you. Just your immediate reaction of week 3. What stood out to you of week 3 of this NFL season?
Well, you got 2 of them right there. I'm gonna say Minnesota stands out to me. 3-0. I did not expect this offense to look the way it does. I thought the defense was going to be good, but I didn't see this offense looking as good as it does right now. And this actually looks like a solid team that, in my opinion, could potentially be a legitimate contender. Again, I think the first 3 weeks of the season have shown that right now we're still in the preseason because half of these guys didn't even have a preseason or play in the preseason. So we're still seeing the kinks getting worked out. But I think Minnesota is one of those teams that they're running on all cylinders right now.
Okay. Young Fog, what about you? What's your immediate reaction of week 3 so far?
Immediate reaction is coaching. This week we saw a lot of teams lose games they should have won. The Browns losing to the Giants, they were the better team on the field. Stefanski was out-coached. The Bears losing to the Colts. If you watch that game, the Colts did everything they could to fuck that game up.
They were trying to lose that game.
The Eagles beating the Saints. The Saints are I'm shocked by how talented that team is. And their coach is a roller coaster ride, though. He's not consistent. They should have won that game. Like you said, your Steelers. I think the Chargers looked like the better team on the field, but the Steelers were coached better. And Justin Fields happened. Happened a lot. There was one other that's the Ravens and Cowboys. The Ravens were not the better team on the field, but the Cowboys kept making stupid little mistakes, and they almost came back because they looked like the better team. And then finally, my fucking Niners. Every time fucking Shanahan gets a 10-point lead, he takes his foot off the gas. It could be 5 minutes into the game. He's like, all right, we're done now. We won, right? And I think I will argue that Sean McVay is, I think, the best coach in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I want to touch on that real quick on the Ravens, Cowboys, and the Niners, Rams. So those are the games I probably watched. Well, outside of my team, because we played in the day, we played the early games. I've never for Baltimore, right? I can't think of a team in my lifetime, at least, who has been worse at closing games. I've never seen a team be up 28-6 or up 2-3 scores and trying their best not to lose. Like you don't understand how hard it is to be up that many scores and try not to lose. Like Baltimore is the worst closing team I've ever seen. I don't know if you can blame some things on Lamar, but I feel like Lamar is doing what he needs to do. He did miss some throws. So I understand if you want to put that on Lamar, but it's really like they just go from like, okay, we're up 28-6. We did everything we need to do to be up 28-6. We ran the football. We were physical. Put the ball in Lamar's hands. We gave him some throws. He made the throws. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead and like, you know what? Instead of running the ball, let's air it out now. We got some cushion. Let's air it out now and let's just see what happens. And then they end up airing it out and end up giving the Cowboys possession. I personally think they were the best team on the field. I do think Dallas or the Ravens were the best team on the field for the first maybe 3.5 quarters. And then Dallas kept getting possessions. They starting to get their rhythm. And then that last drive, when it was 28-25, then the Ravens would be like, oh, okay, let's go back to what we're used to. Let's put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands like they did in that last fake end around to Zay Flowers, and they got him for the first down. Like, it's just, I've never seen a team this bad at closing games than the Ravens have been over the last like 2.5 years. It is unbelievably bad. And David, to your point, same thing with the Niners with Shanahan. Maybe they're second worst. I don't know. Maybe you watch them more than I do. What do you think that is? Why do you think the Niners are so bad at closing games?
Kyle Shanahan is captain clock management. He gets a lead, and then he simplifies the offense. Minimal turnovers, get 3 or 4 yards per play. We're just going to grind out a couple first downs and run the clock out. And unfortunately, that offense is dynamic, and that offense, this is something that's kind of becoming more prevalent in the NFL. The Niners do it, the Seahawks do it, the Rams do it, Tampa Bay does it now. It's spreading out where rather than having a set scheme, you're building your scheme for your particular opponents. You borrow from all different schemes. And it feels like when you shut down your game plan, you don't have an old reliable to go to. You don't have a put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands to go to. Your offense doesn't have an identity that it can rely on when times are tough.
Yeah. I agree with that. I get that part. And that's why it baffles me why the Ravens are so horrible at finishing games. Like it is the weirdest thing. I watched this game from start to finish pretty much, and I just was so like, I'm not even a Ravens fan. I mean, I'm a Lamar fan, but obviously I'm a Steeler fan. So like when whatever the Ravens do was what they do. But
so I'm throw for 300 yards, but lose.
I just don't understand. My biggest reaction or my immediate reaction is obviously what you see on the screen. I mean, Sam Darnold's killing it. He's leading the league in touchdowns. And I'll say this, man. I'll say this. At some point, as it says on the screen, just further proof of more coaches and organizations in the NFL know how to mess up a quarterback. They know how to develop them. I agree with that statement. I agree. I do. I think obviously we all understand situation matters. Sam Darnold is in a better situation, in the best situation he's ever been in. He was nothing in New York. He had nothing there. It was bare. Then he goes to Carolina. We all know what's going on in Carolina right now, except if your name is Andy Dalton. I'll get to that in a minute. And then he goes to San Francisco, where like I feel like maybe I don't know, maybe Kyle Shanahan sprinkled some dust on him. I don't really know what happened to him in San Francisco. I think he only played like one game while he was there. And then he goes to Minnesota, and he goes and playing with Kevin O'Connell, and he looks pretty damn good. Like I felt like the first 2 games may have been a fluke, but look, 8 touchdowns and 2 picks, man. Like he's killing it. He's killing it. I mean, and honestly, if we're being real, he's probably the leader of the MVP candidate right now. If we're being honest, it's probably Sam Darnold right now.
He's comeback player of the year.
Comeback player of the year. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But my biggest story is
not Andy Dalton.
We got to give Andy a little more time.
No, it could be. It honestly could be, man. It's just I'm gonna pass it to David Falk because he has some things to say about Bryce Young, man. But I tweeted this because I was watching this in real time. Andy Dalton this was like around the second quarter, so he actually played. He kept playing better as the game went on. And Andy Dalton playing well for the Carolina Panthers. Skylar Thompson, who is just awful. Like, he sucks, man. Like, I'm so surprised that the Dolphins, knowing Tua's injury history, didn't line up with like an Andy Dalton. I'm so shocked. They just say, you know what, Tua.
It's like having Taysom Hill as your backup quarterback.
I think they would take Taysom Hill at this point, for real, honestly. But like, it's like, you know what, Tua, you didn't have 2 concussions in 3 years where you were fencing. We don't need a backup quarterback. You'll be fine. And then they leave Skylar Thompson on the roster. I don't get that. I think Bryce Young is going to be moved pretty soon here. I do. I mean, the Dolphins are the team that have been kind of in there. They're taking calls right now. I think I told Steven, I think his trade value has plummeted now that Andy Dalton looks to be a better quarterback in that system. Danny Canales, the coach, has no ties to Bryce Young. He didn't draft him. So there's that. Clearly, he doesn't like him. Benched him up for 2 games. He's seen enough. I think Bryce Young is done. And I think both sides could use a fresh start. But David, you have something to say about Bryce Young. I'm going to hand it to you. What's your reaction to this?
It's interesting. You set me up in a kind of interesting way. I want to go back to your Sam Darnold thing because I think it's going to tie into this Bryce Young thing.
Okay.
When a team has a quarterback that's not a star, Sam Darnold is not a star. I don't care how good he is. He's not Patrick Mahomes or anything like that.
No.
Coaches tend to not give them the keys to the car. They say, here's your Justin Jefferson. You throw Justin Jefferson the ball, and you don't do anything fucking stupid. That's it. Sam Darnold's been given the keys to the car. If you look at the pass numbers in Minnesota, he is spreading it to everyone and anyone who gets open. It's what he does well. And so he's been allowed to be the best version of himself.
Absolutely.
Pivoting to Bryce Young and Dave Canales, that is how Dave Canales coaches. He came from the Seattle tree. He was under Pete Carroll for years. I think he actually, I don't know. No, he didn't go to the Rams. But it's a similar play call, a similar offensive scheme that he built in Tampa Bay to what exists in Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles. It is amorphous. You are pulling from everywhere. You're building a scheme to scheme receivers open, not to let them win their battles. You're not trying to win off athleticism. You're scheming your players open. And Bryce Young seems to be struggling very much so with reading through his progressions. And it's getting, I'm trying to say, it's getting, what's making it worse, what's stacking onto that problem is Bryce Young has bad footwork. Now, I drafted him in a couple dynasty leagues this year thinking I'm getting a steal on a later round pick. So I got into his tape. This year, he takes the snap, he shuffles his feet. He might as well be trying to scrape dirt off the grass or something while he's going back. That's bad in a Canales run offense. That offense, think what Russell Wilson was doing in Seattle, what Brock Purdy does now in San Francisco, what Matt Stafford was doing in the last couple of years. 3-step drop. Hard pivot, throw the ball. You'll have some 5- and 7-step drops, but the plays are designed to match the cadence of your drop. Bryce Young doesn't have a cadence to his drop. He just slides back there.
Slides back and just throws it, yeah.
So he's not getting a heavy plant on his back foot. He's not driving his throws. And when you're only 6 feet tall, when you have shorter arms, when you have smaller hands, and your arm strength is slightly above average, you're losing velocity off of your throws. The other problem is he's playing scared. If you look at him last year, shuffling his feet was a problem. Going through his progressions was a problem. But he was playing like he knew he was the guy. And he was running around, he was making plays, and he was very accurate. Now he's in such a hurry to get the ball out. He's throwing the ball on 1-step drops at most. He throws it out. He sees the pressure coming. He's trying to escape. He doesn't step up into the pocket. These were things he was doing last year that he's no longer doing this year. And the blocking is better this year than it was last year. So he's lost all confidence. It's destroyed his mechanics. It's made his footwork worse. And it's made his pocket presence amongst the worst I've ever seen. I mean, he literally hike and he's seeing ghosts. He's running places. He's getting himself sacked some of the times because he's trying to run to an open field that looks open, but there are guys there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would say he's done, but I will say because of his size, because of his arm strength, and because of his height as well. When I'm thinking size, I'm talking bulkiness. These are all things that you need to be better than the next guy. You can't play like Josh Allen and be 6 feet tall. Josh Allen can get away with shit because he's Josh Allen. Justin Fields can get away with shit because he's that big. Bryce Young does not have that kind of leeway. He can't make mistakes. He can't screw up. He has to play top notch. He has to play like Doug Flutie did when Doug Flutie was playing at his best.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else. I don't have much to add to that. I think you hit it on the nail. It's particularly with the confidence part. That's what it really that to me. That's what seems to be the difference between Bryce Young this year and last year. He didn't play particularly great last year, but I feel like the last three or four games, you saw flashes of a guy who, like you said, knew he was the guy. He knew, like, okay, I'm starting to get this. And so it kind of brings me to this question. I'm going to ask you, Steve, I'm going to ask you this. Like, does this is why I feel like the organization may matter, because who got fired? Who's the coach? This guy's name? Frank Wright.
Yeah.
Right? Did they give up on Frank Wright too soon at the expense of Bryce Young to bring in this guy, David Canales, right? Who I felt like, look, you bring in a new coach. He knows who you are. He's seen your film before he even gets there. Like, he knows your tendencies. It seemed like the leash was already short. Did they give up on Frank Wright too soon, which kind of, I think, feel like crumbled the confidence of Bryce Young? Because who knows what conversations they've had between him and Canales? Who knows how they feel about each other? Clearly, Canales doesn't feel much about him because he benched him after 2 games for Andy Dalton.
I think they might have pulled the plug on Frank Wright too soon. But there was, I think there was reason there. I'm guessing Frank Wright was not on board with Bryce Young and having him. And I think Canales, look, as to piggyback off of what Dave said regarding Canales, you got to understand something with Canales. In 2020, he led Russell Wilson to one of his best seasons in his career.
Yep.
In 2022, he had Geno Smith. Again, gave Geno Smith a structured offense to operate in.
Comeback player of the year.
And he came back, got comeback player of the year, also had one of the best seasons he's ever had. Ironically, Geno came with the Jets as well. This is interesting. We're seeing Jet quarterbacks have success after being drafted by the Jets, going elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then you saw what he did last year with Baker Mayfield and what Mayfield did. So I know my brother said he doesn't think Bryce Young is done. I think Bryce Young is finished. I think it's a wrap. I think his career is over.
Really?
I'm going to call it right now. I think this man is going to be a backup quarterback, because here's a coach who actually gives structure to guy. How many people thought Geno Smith was done, finished, trash? And look what Geno Smith does, 10 years later. Nobody thought Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson was being questioned on whether or not even going to 2 Super Bowls, winning one, was still being questioned on whether or not he was a quality quarterback, a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. Canales had that 2020 season, and everyone's going, whoa, maybe Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer. And then now look where Russell Wilson is. He's sitting behind Justin Fields, a guy that couldn't make it in Chicago. We could get that one later. And Baker Mayfield, another guy, he can't do it. He can't do it. Cleveland dumps him. 1 year with Canales, and all of a sudden, maybe the structure's there. Bryce Young just doesn't have the eye or the IQ to play the position. And you compile that on with the lack of confidence that we clearly see. He's definitely got happy feet in the pocket. I think Canales had seen enough in those first 2 games and said, maybe he pulled him and said, look, we got to work with you before we put you back out there, because this shit just isn't working out. and we're going to let Andy you sit behind Andy and watch a veteran quarterback do it, because all Andy's doing is doing what he's done his entire career: follow the system. That's all he's doing, is following the system. So this guy is just it's paint by numbers with the way he operates the offense. Well, somebody forgot to bring their crayons in, because obviously Bryce Young just can't paint the numbers. He can't even stay in the lines.
Man, I honestly thought David was going to be the one to eviscerate him. You just literally ending this man's career.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. I will say this: he could. You could be right if they fix Bryce Young's footwork, because I think that is the key to a Canales offense, is the timing of the 3, 5, and 7-step drops. If they fix the footwork and it's still not working, then yeah, he's toast. Because there are some things of concern. I noticed this looking at some games this year where when they were playing, who'd they play last week? The Chargers in week 2?
Yeah, Chargers.
So when they played the Chargers were playing an interesting cover 2 scheme where Carolina was creating a lot of mismatches, trips on this side. They were shifting around the line, again, typical for a Canales offense. And what Carolina would do is their safety on the trip side was playing normal, but the safety on the other side was cheating to the middle. He was playing quarters rather than deep. He was actually like cheating to help cover on those trips. Bryce Young, on a lot of those plays, was looking to try and confuse the defense. And you see it. He's smart. He knows what he's doing, but he's hiking the ball and he's trying to look off players. He's trying to do this. He's not watching that safety. And you kind of have, if a team's running a cover 2 like that, you need to watch that safety, because you need to know what he's doing. Is he cheating to the other side? Is he sticking on the single side? What is he doing? And Bryce Young is struggling to figure out what the defense is doing, or maybe not even paying attention to what they're doing, quite frankly.
Yeah, we can talk about Bryce Young all day. We can psychoanalyze Bryce Young literally all night, because it is fascinating to me. It's very fascinating how I don't think he's this bad. So I'm gonna lean towards David here over you, Fog, because I think Bryce Young can still play in this league. Is he going to be an immediate starter? Maybe not. Maybe he needs to sit a year or two. Maybe he needs to find his footing somewhere else. I do think his confidence needs to be rebuilt. I don't want to say we have a like Brian Flores versus like Tua thing, because Brian Flores destroyed Tua's confidence. Like, you can't convince me this guy almost ruined his career the way he was going back and forth and playing him. I don't care anybody says that was terrible coaching by Brian Flores on Tua. But I don't want to sit here and say that Danny Canales is doing that to Bryce Young. I do think I agree. I do think he probably tried to help him, and I think his confidence is shot, man. And I think Canales just kind of saw that when you can't do the simple things, when you can't hit a flat route, like, bro, and when you're like literally like jumping in the air to throw it where you've never done that before, not even in Alabama. I never saw him. I want to go back and watch some of his Alabama highlights. He never had to leave his feet. Like, so I don't know what that was. I think the kid can play. I wish him the best, because I do like him he seems like a pretty good kid. So I hope he finds his footing. I do hope they trade him sooner rather than later. I don't know. I don't think Canales actually really wants him. Because honestly, to me, I feel like Canales chose his job over Bryce Young, because we all know David Temper is going to fire you in a heartbeat, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he chose his job over Bryce Young. So I think they do trade him. I don't know where. I mean, the Dolphins obviously seem to be a good fit. I heard some people say the Rams for the future. I heard some people say the Raiders. I don't think that's a good fit at all. I think he'd die in Las Vegas. But like, so I don't know.
Well, it's not that he's not a good fit for Las Vegas. Las Vegas isn't a good fit for anyone.
No, it's not a good fit for anyone. No. Like, no. But
Jacoby Myers is the one success story in Las Vegas.
He really was. Hey, look, but we got 3 more teams that are undefeated. 3 undefeated teams left. 3-0 teams. We got the Steelers, my Steelers, Vikings. We just talked about that. And then the Seahawks are undefeated, which I think is the biggest surprise. Here's the total win spread by the team, by all 3 teams. On this list, who are your pretenders and Contenders for these 3-0 teams. Steelers, Vikings, Seahawks. Fog, give me your Pretenders and Contenders out of these 3 teams.
Well, shit. I'm gonna say the only contender there is the Vikings, in my opinion. For everything that I'd stated before, I think this team was better than I thought they were going to be, and than a lot of people thought they were going to be. And I remember I was watching, I think it was before the season started, Colin Cowherd had put the Vikings at 9 or 10 in his top 10 teams in the league, his power rankings to start the year. And I was like, the Vikings? And I had to look back at the team. And after week 1, I was like, this guy might not have been wrong. After week 3, I don't think he was wrong at all. I think the Vikings are probably the biggest out of these 3 teams, definitely the biggest contender. I think the Steelers look like the Eagles did last year. They're winning. They're winning, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. And Seattle, look, I got nothing. That division has, you got the 49ers. The 49ers are hurt right now. And you got Sean McVay, he's like David alluded to, is probably one of the best coach in the NFL right now. I just think that Seattle's, it's smoke and mirrors right now. They're not as good as advertised, kind of like the Saints.
Well, Steve, what about you? David, what about you?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go a little differently because only one of these teams I had making the playoffs this year. So I'm going to defend myself. And that is the Seahawks. The Seahawks are an injured team. They are shuffling players in and out like crazy. It is impressive that they're 3-0. Now, you could look at the play from their wide receivers and say that's concerning, how inconsistent, how up and down it is between, is it Lockett, is it Metcalf, is it JSN? That's something they need to figure out and calm that down. But their running game is struggling because they're dealing with all these injury issues. The fact that they're still winning is very impressive to me. Pete Carroll, I will always defend as being, I'm really impressed with him as a coach, and I'm a Niners fan. So when he came to Seattle, I was like, fuck that guy, and I hate Russell Wilson, and I hate USC. So this is not coming from someone who likes Pete Carroll. The Vikings, I'm going to take a pass on this. I'm going to cop out because I want to see what happens when teams actually adjust. Because you have a team with the same coaches last year, with largely the same offenses last year, and they're coming out and they're calling very different plays. And I think that is an adjustment because they are not playing like they did last year with Kirk Cousins. They look much smarter. They look much more developed in what they're doing. So what happens when the NFL adjusts? They're impressive, but it's still Sam Darnold. And then the Steelers, Arthur Smith. I will always go back to Arthur Smith. This offense is being, as far as I'm concerned, very poorly coached. The play calling is horrendous. They are surviving on pure talent and the insanity that's going on with their defense and how well they're playing. Yeah. At some point, the rug comes out there.
Yeah, I'll say Pittsburgh for last. Here's what I'll say. I think the Seahawks are pretenders in my opinion because just based on who they play. I don't even know if I want to count the Dolphins win. I'm not sure that even counts as a win. They played Denver in week 1, and they barely beat Denver. They squeaked by Denver, and then they played the Patriots, and they squeaked by New England in New England. And then they played the Dolphins. They didn't squeak by the Dolphins, but they beat them pretty handily. Makes me wonder if the Dolphins actually had a quarterback. They may that outcome would have been a little different. May have been a little different. So I'll say the Seahawks are one of my pretenders. I think the Vikings are contenders just for the reasons that David said. I think they're playing smarter. I think they're playing harder for Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold can make better throws and more throws that Kirk Cousins could not make to Justin Jefferson. Even though Kirk Cousins did make some, he played well. I'm not gonna sit here and say he didn't play well, but I think Sam Darnold's a little more dynamic in terms of the throws he could make, the off-script throws he could make. And I think Justin Jefferson plays very well off-script, pretty much how he played at LSU when he was kind of playing backyard football with Joe Burrow, where he kind of made up his own routes. He couldn't do that. I mean, look, he played well with Kirk Cousins, don't get me wrong, but I think he plays more freely like that. Like he's plays freely. He's a guy that likes to make up his own routes and likes to have the fire drill, they like to call it, the scramble drill, whatever you call it.
Well, I think you could have it both ways, Brian. Kirk Cousins hit a wall, a very hard wall about a year ago.
Yeah, he did.
Last year he was bad, and this year he is bad. He is not the Kirk Cousins he used to be.
Yeah.
You could have it both ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think the Vikings are, and the defensively they look pretty good. They look okay. I won't say they look pretty good, but defensively look better than they did last year. Offensive line looks better than it did last year. I think that has to do with Sam Darnold not being a statue, kind of like what Kirk Cousins was, especially after the Achilles. So the Vikings, to me, and that division is winnable. Even though that the Packers are unbelievably, they're 2-0 without Jordan Love. So that's, Malik Willis, to me, his price just went up, by the way. Shout out to Malik Willis, who's won 2 games while Jordan Love has been out. The Lions look like a team that, they don't look like the same exact team. Their defense, like Fog and I, you talk about this all the time, their defense is still horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I still think that's going to hold them back. That division, and the Bears are obviously the Bears. That division is winnable, right? So I think they're contenders. When it comes to my Steelers, man, I was going to say this for the next slide, but I'll say it now. Like, Arthur Smith, he's better than Matt Canada, which is like saying what? Nothing. like he's better than Matt Canada from the standpoint of he's putting Justin Fields in situations where he can't mess up. The ball's getting out of his hands quick. Najee Harris is actually running like he's 230. Like I've always said that. I've always joked around. Najee Harris likes to run like he has jeans on. It's so weird how he runs. He does not run in a straight line. It's so stupid the way he runs. He does not. He just decides not to run downhill. I don't know if Arthur Smith put something in his head and said, "Hey, you're like our Derrick Henry. Hit that hole and run downhill." I guarantee you, by the fourth quarter, they're gonna whiff, just like they did. So I will say he's good for that, but just the lack of creativity is just still there. It drives me crazy because we dealt with this for 3 to 4 years with Matt Canada. The lack of creativity in that offense, especially when they're in the red zone. What the play that actually made me throw my phone was in the second quarter. It was 10-7. We're in the red zone. It was 3rd and 9. I'm like, okay, we can maybe call something to maybe make it a 4th and 1. Maybe we go for it or not. What do? We throw a fade while to George Pickens while he's bracketed. Like, I'm like, bro, like, who told you to throw that, Justin? Like, that just immediately reminded me of like Kenny Pickett last year. But we came alive. Justin Fields made some great throws in the middle of the field. His confidence was up. We're running the football. I think we're contenders because Justin Fields, like you said, David, is saving our asses. And he's making plays that Kenny Pickett could not make last year. I would say that out of these 3 games we've won, this is a game we would have lost because although our defense was giving us the ball back so many times, it was getting very frustrating. It would have got to the point where at some point the Chargers would be like, okay, they don't want to win this game. Let's go score and win this game because we know Kenny Pickett can't do it. This is a game where Justin Fields say, you know what? Okay, I'm going to play my game. I'm going to do what I got to do. The reins were kind of taken off him. I kind of felt the reins taken off him a little bit, and he won the game. We would have been 1-2 right now with Kenny Pickett. 1-2. We probably would have won one of those. We probably would have won one of those games. I think the game we would have won was against the Steelers because we didn't score. And Boswell pretty much bailed us out. That's the game we would have won. I think we would have lost to the Broncos because that was another game we were just the offensive creativity wasn't there. And then this game we probably would have lost because the offensive creativity wasn't there, and we just were not capitalizing on our insane defense that has been playing lights out pretty much the last 3 weeks. So I think we're contenders because Justin Fields, I think he's the guy. I think the confidence is growing, but what worries me is the lack of just offensive creativity. I just hope at some point the playbook opens up. I understand they were had the training wheels on Justin Fields. They weren't really sure if Russell's going to come back. I think they should know who the quarterback is now. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to come back. I think he's done. I think Justin Fields is the guy. Unless Fields just regresses, he throws like 5 picks in 2 games, which he won't. I just think they have to take the reins off him a little bit. So I think those are my contenders. I think the Steelers are contenders. Vikings are definitely contenders. And I think the Seahawks are definitely pretenders based off their schedule and who they've played and who they beat. Which brings us to I kind of already eviscerated Arthur Smith, which brings me to this. Pretty much, I wanted to talk about our wins. I want to talk about our games. Fog. Justin Fields, 3-0 as a starting quarterback for the Steelers, has had a great season. The completion percentage is there. I know he's not throwing the ball down the field enough. Hopefully that comes. But the fact that all he's doing, what he needed to do, was just not turn the ball over. And we need to capitalize on the possessions we have. That's all we need to do, is capitalize on the possessions we have. I think he can do that. I think his confidence will grow. I saw that in Chicago last year. He's pretty much playing in the same system, right? Same exact situation where the defense was carrying the team and he was making plays, finding DJ Moore, who had 1,300 yards last year, right? Running the football with Devin Singletary, right? We have Najee and Warren, right? I just feel like this was probably the most complete game we've played. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll be real with you. This is probably the most complete game we played since Big Ben. I never saw a complete game play with Kenny Pickett. I didn't see it. Never saw it. Even though we were winning. Not even Mason Rudolph. Not with Kenny Pickett. We have not played a game where it's like, okay, I haven't had the feeling of like, okay, we got this game under control since Big Ben. Like, and I'm talking about Big Ben like 5 years ago, like 6 years ago, maybe. Like, it's been a long time. It's been a long time where we've had these games in control. But yeah, do you guys have any comments on how the Steelers played today?
They played not to lose the game, and they played not to. Well, I should say they were coached not to lose the game. Justin Fields found the way to win the game for them. That's basically it. Again, it's Mike Tomlin. It's Tomlin at the end of the day. That man, for whatever reason, he could take anything that's just there, as long if it's average, he can make average have success. He finds ways to coach these teams to be successful, and he's doing it right now with Justin Fields. He's given him the confidence, and like you said, I don't think Russell Wilson sees the football field. Fields, it's his job to lose at this point. Now.
Absolutely, he's won it. He's definitely won it.
I would say we're seeing a progression, and we need to see where it goes. In the first couple weeks, it was protect Fields, let's not screw this up. And the protecting Fields part wasn't happening all that well. This is the first week that I think their offensive line really looked good.
Yeah.
Now you can point to Arthur Smith, because Arthur Smith creates really interesting blocking packages. The problem is going to be, I still haven't seen that result in Justin Fields and the guys on the other side of the line connecting to make big things happen. They're just kind of plodding along. They're relying so much on Fields' athleticism and his ability to keep the play going. That's where, like, today was really important that he had decent blocking, because the Chargers could get to the quarterback. So that's the part that's still the missing piece there. Fields and those receivers putting up numbers, actually being able to just go down and win the game, because they haven't had to play from behind yet, really. I think they were down not a touchdown, but they were down against the Falcons, and then just kind of marched down the field in a very slow, plodding, almost embarrassing fashion for Atlanta to get that win. I want to see that offense look good in a situation like that, rather than look at the defense and go, what are you doing? And that's the next step. That's what would make me think they're a contender, if they make that next step. And that needs to happen in the next 3 to 5 weeks.
Absolutely. Our schedule doesn't get that. It doesn't get any easier. So, I mean, you have the Colts, then we have Dallas, and you have the Raiders, and then
the Colts could blow that game. They've shown a real ability to screw things up.
Our schedule gets pretty tough in the month of November, where we have a stretch where we have Baltimore, we have pretty much division games. We have Baltimore on the 17th, and then we have the Browns, then we have the Bengals, then we have the Browns again, then we have the Eagles, then we have the Ravens again, then the Chiefs, then you have the Bengals. Like, honestly, this could all go to shit by November. But you know what? I'm going to enjoy the ride. Like, I'm going to enjoy the ride now. But we'll see where we are by November, because this can go. We have to compile as many wins as we can, because that gauntlet of November and December. I mean, I'm not really sure what we're going to squeeze out there. But Fog, your team won though. Your team won. Any comment on the Eagles squeezing out a win there in the Big Easy?
This offense looks no different than it did last year. It looks no different than it did when Sirianni had first taken over. It's pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball. Trying to get creative and get Barkley into space off tackle when you don't have quite frankly, the offensive line to do that. You don't have the speed on that offensive line. So you got to, what I say, Dave, when we're watching the game, so they just got to start running in between the tackles. I get it. Barkley gets hurt, but they just got to let these guys just bowl over everybody. Just play hard-nosed football. Get Barkley running between the tackles, and he'll break one. And look what he did. 17 carries, 100 and 20 some odd yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. But there's no balance. Again, Jalen Hurts ran the ball 8 times. They weren't all planned. So Barkley ran the ball 17 times, and now Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 38 times.
Why? I just don't understand. Who's the coordinator? Kellen. Oh yeah, okay.
Kellen Moore.
Actually, that makes perfect sense. Why Jalen Hurts
understanding achieved.
Okay, never mind. I was like, why is he throwing the ball 38 times? Who's the OC? Oh, Kellen Moore. That makes effing sense. Yeah, okay. That's just,
which makes me question Howie Roseman's decision to bring Kellen Moore in, because Kellen Moore is doing nothing different than what Nick Sirianni was doing.
And does Kellen Moore have the personality to actually bring anything to the table? It's not whether or not his scheming is good. Is he in the room saying, hey, Sirianni, we need to do this differently. We need to do, because Sirianni's a big personality. I think we've seen that. He wants to be in control of everything. So is he just running roughshod of Kellen Moore right now, who kind of seems a little meek?
He probably is, because Shane Steichen, he was the one that said, I need full control of the offense. And from what I understand, that conversation 2 years ago when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl was a very heated conversation, and that Sirianni was reluctant, but with Howie Roseman influence said, hey, listen, we brought him in as the OC. We saw what he did with Justin Herbert out there. Let's let him do what he does, and let it happen with Jalen Hurts, and let's see what goes on there. And as we saw, Hurts had a top 5 statistical season. The Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and then the minute Steichen got an offer, he was like, yeah, see you later, guys. Bye. Don't give a shit if it was the Colts. I'm out of here.
Yeah, look, the Eagles seem to be like the real deal talent-wise, but like you keep bringing up with Sirianni, he seems to have fallen in love with going east and west and big-time bombs. Right. What happened to controlling the middle of the field? And the Eagles are built for that, with Goddard, with Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. I know A.J. Brown's hurt right now, right?
Yeah, Smith's joining him now.
Yeah.
You can dominate the middle of the field with this team. Jalen Hurts loves to step into a pocket and complete his throws. Why are you not doing more with that? I'd love to see Philly do things a lot more like the Rams did to protect Matt Stafford when they won the Super Bowl, where their pockets were kind of shifting a little this way, a little that way. You want to go east and west? Do it in increments, not all the way over there and then all the way over here. I think Sirianni really thinks he can outrun the team to the sideline and take it for a touchdown.
Yeah,
Again, it's simplifying. You said it coaching earlier. Coaching. What's your biggest takeaway? Here it is, right? These coaches are outthinking
I was
themselves.
thinking themselves.
Realistically,
Yeah.
it's
Overcoaching.
just keep it simple. Just
Yeah.
keep it simple. Sometimes simple is the way to go, especially if you have the talent that the Eagles have on that offensive side of the ball.
The
And
way
where's
that
the play action? Where is the
one
play action on this
it's gonna
team?
meant I was
It's only
just
read
gonna say,
option. There is no play action. It's just read option.
it seems like everything the Eagles did in 2022 to get to where they were in Super and almost win it, they have just completely gone away from it. I just don't. It's again, it is the coaching. It's overcoaching. It's trying to out coach yourself or outsmart yourself. You know, you lose the Super Bowl and all of a sudden you just panic. You try something different. Like
It's not panic. Sirianni had to. This is a Nick Sirianni problem. He had to show because everybody was saying the only reason the Eagles got to the Super Bowl was because of Shane Steichen and what he did with Jalen Hurts.
100%. Yeah.
Nick Sirianni is like, well, nope. I've got to control this. We're going back to doing things my way. This is a Doug Peterson situation all over. I got called crazy when I said the Eagles should have fired Peterson, even though he won him the Super Bowl, and made Frank Reich the head coach, because that was Frank Reich who got that team there. Shane Steichen was the one that got that offense there, not Nick Sirianni. And like Peterson, Sirianni is going now to, hey, I want to put my imprint, my stamp on it. And your imprint, your stamp just isn't working. You didn't call the plays in Indianapolis when you were the OC for Frank Reich.
Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 38 times a game
makes no sense.
It's just crazy. I almost want to ask, and maybe Bug can look this up for us later, but I almost want to ask, did he even throw the ball that many times in one game back in 2022? I would bet no. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure because, like you said, keep it simple. I'm not trying to dumb down what the Eagles did in 2022, but they kept it so simple that it almost won the Super Bowl. Like they literally were playing to Jalen Hurts' strengths, and now they're playing out of it, and they're making him throw the ball 38 times. And then when you said, "Oh, it's Kellen Moore who made Dak Prescott throw the ball 60 times," no wonder he throws stupid picks. He's throwing the ball 60 times. Like coaching in the NFL, that's a whole conversation within itself. That can go back to college football, because I was having a conversation with somebody online earlier, like how coaching it's just really subpar on all levels, and in college and the NFL. It's just really, really subpar. And it's interesting how it's starting to affect these quarterbacks, man. It really is. It really is. Real quick, Dave, I know you want to talk about Lincoln Riley and how he's screwing up the life of not screwing up the life of his quarterback.
Hold up. I actually got something on the Jalen Hurts for you. 2022 year, 9 times, including the playoff run, did Jalen Hurts throw the ball 30 or more times. They scored 20 or more in every single one of those games. So they were playing in mostly shootouts. There were a couple games that were where they just beat the snot out of someone, but it was not. They weren't just throwing it just to throw it. They weren't scoring 15 points and throwing it 40 times.
Right.
Yeah,
they were in shootouts. They had to throw the ball, not the fact. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
but you brought up my good buddy. I think this is a pivot to another young quarterback that we like to talk about, or people are going to like talking about, and that's Caleb Williams. And who mentored him, who ushered him in as the number 1 pick in the draft, and that is Lincoln, the quarterback guru Riley, who everyone is in love with. And the more time I've had to sit and look at Lincoln Riley's past and what he's built up, he is a college coach. He is coaching to win at college. That is apples to oranges. He is sending guys who can beat plumbers to the NFL. He's building a system that is very friendly to these quarterbacks, and he's letting them flourish. He's letting them focus on their talents, the things they do best. Caleb Williams, you watch him in USC, so many broken plays, so many times he's winging it, and he's using his athleticism and his big arm to win. He's not playing like you're gonna play in the NFL. What Russell Wilson did for those couple years was ridiculous. No one else has done it since. No one else really did it before then. Now Caleb Williams is suddenly stuck in the framework of an offense. You can complain about Eberflus, you can complain about other things going on in Chicago, but the simple fact of the matter is he's going to have to develop. He's going to have to take time. Remember, Baker Mayfield, that's a Lincoln Riley product. That product needed some more time on the shelf before it got out there. It needed development. Jalen Hurts, I think we've seen enough from Jalen Hurts to go, well, maybe Lincoln Riley gave him some confidence, because when you're in a scenario where you're battling out for quarterback, I don't think that's good for anyone involved. So he got some confidence, but he goes to the NFL, and we've seen Hurts. He's played great, but there are deficiencies in his game. He didn't come to the NFL ready. Who else are Lincoln Riley products that people felt?
Is Kyler Murray a Lincoln Riley guy? Kyler Murray, Oklahoma?
Yeah, because he was brought in to coach him.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray is an amazing athlete, and I think he's covered up a lot of his deficiencies with that athleticism. But I wouldn't attribute his success to Lincoln Riley.
Baker Mayfield?
And that's one who he struggled. He struggled when he first came out. He didn't flourish until Dave Canales got his hands on him.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, there's some validity to that. Who else? Is there anybody else who's also a Lincoln Riley? I mean, if you want to get technical, he hasn't played yet. Who is probably not gonna see the field anymore? Spencer Rattler is also a Lincoln Riley kind of a disciple. He transferred to South Carolina, but he did play under Lincoln Riley out of Oklahoma and was benched by, of course, Caleb Williams. I think Lincoln Riley is a great offensive mind, great play caller. I don't know if I can put all the blame on Lincoln Riley for these guys not being ready for the NFL. I can say this. Does Lincoln Riley make quarterbacks better? Is there a correlation there? I think so. I think there has to be. I think he's had 3 first overall picks. Like, there has to be some correlation to Lincoln Riley's coaching and him putting guys in the NFL at high levels. Now, I'm trying to. I don't know. Like, when they get to the league, for me, when you get to the league, is it Lincoln Riley's responsibility to continue to mentor them or coach them while they're there? I don't think so. I think quarterback coaching in the league is bad because I think these guys are thrown into the fire too damn early. Like, Caleb Williams is probably the perfect example of a guy who needed to sit because he was so mechanically broken. And I think is that Lincoln Riley's fault? Maybe not. I don't know. I think Caleb Williams I think he's overly confident. I think he really felt like he can make those off-script plays. He really tried to against last Sunday night or Monday night against the Texans. He was trying to run around. There's no line there either. Let's be real here. Let's be honest though. Let's be honest. The Bears line is atrocious. There's no line there. They might as well just open the gate and just say, okay, here we come. Like, there's no line there. So I can't put it all on Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley because the Bears did not address the line at all. They didn't address it.
I'm more saying this as being a problem that's going to continue into the future, where people are going to get hyped up about Lincoln Riley products. He builds the best quarterback that he can build in the shortest amount of time so that he can win. That's not preparing you for the NFL. That's getting you to, hey, you have these problems. Well, I don't have time to fix these problems. We're going to find a way to overshadow it with something else.
I'm glad you brought that up because Jason Brown, if you guys know him from the 4QQ page, let me pose this question to you guys because he kind of alluded to it a little bit. I'm glad you brought that up. Is it the coach's responsibility to get guys ready for the NFL, or is it their responsibility to win games while they're in college?
Oh, it's their responsibility to win games. Absolutely, it is their responsibility to win games. It's these players. If you know you're going to the NFL, it's on these players to turn around and say, "Hey, listen, what do I got to do to get there?" The problem is you're dealing with kids. They're not thinking about, "Oh, what do I got to do?" They just, "Hey, I know if I go here, I play good with this guy, I'm going to win games." So again, it just goes to the fact that there's such a gap between being in the pros and at the college level, even though it's here and here. When you go from college to here, the gap widens tremendously. And I don't think people realize how big a gap that is, even if you're a star player. Even if you're a star player, I don't think people realize, and Patrick Mahomes was one that said it. Andy Reid was huge in his development as a quarterback.
And he sat for
but that goes to, hey, you know what you're drafting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're drafting. You know what you got to be prepared for. If you've watched videotape of him, then you should be working on what he needs to work on. If he's someone that you were looking at, it's not like they pulled Caleb Williams out of a hat and said, "All right, last minute, we're this is what we're." No, you've seen videotape of him. If this is somebody you were interested in, maybe you should have had somebody talking to him. "Hey, listen, this is what you're going to need if you get drafted in the NFL, or this is how we're going to be looking at you. I want to see you work on these things to fix them, because if we draft you, we want you to be able to come in and play immediately." It's on those teams. It's not on the college coaches to prepare these guys.
Absolutely.
I agree-ish. They are paid to win. They get in front of cameras and say very fucking different things. And I will hold them responsible for that. Because they like to talk about the kids.
We all know it ain't about the damn kids.
And every time I see one of those guys get up there and get on their soapbox and talk about all the amazing things they do for the kids, I can't help but think about that South Park episode where Cartman goes to the NCAA when he's like getting babies in a fighting league, and he's like, "Oh, why do you get your slaves to do what you want them to do?" And they're like, "No, they're student athletes." It's like, "Oh, you call them student athletes." And that's how this feels. It feels like they're saying one thing, but treating them like a commodity. And that's something I think needs to change. It's not their responsibility, but the NCAA should do something about it. Maybe the NFL, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. Both of you guys make great points. I don't think it's the responsibility. Well, I think the responsibility of a college coach is to win games, right? They're going to do what they got to do to win games. Do I think that there should be a little bit of accountability to how they get them prepared for the NFL? Yeah, because they sell that dream to them. There's the reason why Caleb Williams followed Lincoln Riley to USC in the first place, right? It's the reason why Caleb Williams came from DC to Oklahoma to USC. Like he went for Lincoln Riley, not for USC. So there's that, right? So, and then, a lot of quarterbacks go to USC for Lincoln Riley, so yeah, there's a little bit of responsibility to get them ready for the NFL, because they say that, "Hey, man, you come play for me, you're going to win a Heisman Trophy, or at least be a candidate for one, and you get to the NFL." Now, I will say that once the player gets to the NFL, I do agree with you, Stephen. I do believe that it is the NFL's responsibility, the coach's responsibility, to kind of see, okay, what are we getting here, and how can we tailor it to our offense? Do we need to sit him for a year? Is he ready to play? Like, I do believe there's a little bit of a chain of command as well. I think there's some pressure from the owners as well to get these guys on the field as fast as possible, without understanding that these guys are totally raw. Like Caleb Williams, again, is a guy that should have sat. Like, he just should have sat. He's not ready. Like, he's clearly not ready. He has some really bad habits. I feel like if Andy Reid got his hands on him, like a guy like who understands quarterbacks really, really well, he would have sat him. But unfortunately, he's playing under Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron, who's awful. like I really feel I feel for Caleb Williams, but I understand he's not going to get a pass from a lot of people because of who he is, personality-wise, and other stuff. I get it, but I feel for him because he's in such a bad situation. I think Ryan Pace is not going to have any choice but to fire Eberflus and Shane Waldron at the end of this year because you can't, like, it could become a situation where you can completely kill the confidence of this kid because even though he's a high confidence kid, eventually those sacks are going to add up, man. And I think it's more the responsibility of the NFL guys to get them ready. Because look, the NFL game and college game, yes, talent-wise, there's a gap. The speed, the processing, there's a gap. But the game isn't that much different. Like, it's just not. Every team is a spread. It's really kind of scripted now. Like, the college game and NFL game looks so, like, similar in terms of, like, the style. Like, I'm not saying it's easier. I'm not saying that the college kids should come in and dominate, but there needs to be there's still a learning curve there in terms of the processing speed, in terms of the game, the speed of the game is still there. So I do think that it's not, everyone's right. I think it's not the responsibility of the college coaches to get them ready for the NFL. But like you said, David, these college coaches do sell dreams in front of the camera. Like, and I don't know what the NCAA can do about that, but they do sell dreams in front of the camera.
We've seen that the NCAA has no balls to begin with. They're not doing anything about anything. So this whole NIL stuff, which I support, has gone completely out of hand. There's just no rules. It's the Wild West. Do whatever you want. We'll figure it out.
Honestly, it's really putting a lot of these colleges in binds. I mean, look at Florida State and DJU. Like, I mean, he's a guy that's a perfect example of a guy who's peaked too soon, and but he got an NIL deal because, you know, he played well at Oregon State, even though they ran the ball a ton, right? Mm-hmm. But like, man, like that's another conversation with DJU. I don't want to talk about him. He just pisses me off. He's just awful. All right, so we got Sunday Night Football going on. I'm taking a look at the score. I'm keeping my eye on it real quick. It is now 16-14. It looks like Patrick Mahomes kind of, I guess he's woken up a little bit. Real quick, there's a tweet that I saw maybe before this touchdown. Mahomes at one point was 2 of 7 with an interception, traveling at least 10 yards down the field. He's now 2 passing TDs, 4 interceptions on deep passes this season. Is there any concern? Do we have any concern about the way Patrick Mahomes is playing? Is there any concern this early on? Or is it just, you know, should we not be concerned? David?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I think we should be a little concerned. Not too concerned about Mahomes specifically, but concerned about the play calling, concerned about the offensive line, concerned about the play of the wide receivers. Look, Rashee Rice is a star, and everyone wants to crown Xavier Worthy already, but he's done nothing but show that he's an athlete, not a wide receiver. There are concerns on this offense. This offense looks stale. Mahomes, on the other hand, has been a bit of a roller coaster ride, but he's pulled them out of some tough situations. My concern is I think the play calling has really gone wonky here with Kansas City, and I think their offense is relying really heavily on their run game to save them, and with Pacheco hurt, they could rack up some losses.
Which only means, you know who our favorite player is. Clyde Edwards-Helaire still there?
No.
I think they cut him.
Oh, God, never mind.
Even if he is, there's a white fullback ahead of him.
Never mind. I was going to be like, which means my guy is going to step up, but apparently he's not there anymore. So, hey, Paul, any concerns on Mahomes so far?
I don't have any concerns on Mahomes. Mahomes is exactly what Andy Reid had always been searching for. Brett Favre, he's just more talented. He's going to take risks. He's going to try to make plays. He's going to try to, fit the ball in spaces that it's going to be tough to fit. And unfortunately, like Dave just said, he doesn't have the type of receivers out there. Mm-hmm. Rashee Rice is the only real receiver. Look, I like Xavier Worthy. I think he has the potential to be a very good slot receiver. He is not a guy that's going to help you out on the outsides. I honestly, I expected to see more of him being used in a similar fashion like Deshaun Jackson was when Andy Reid had D Jackson Philly, and I'm not seeing that with the play calling. I'm not seeing, getting him in the short screens, getting the ball to him in crossing routes, or trying to get him from the inside, running deep go routes from out of the slot position. You're not seeing what was advertised in the preseason. Oh my God, these guys are going to look so great. Yeah, on the 7-on-7, he looks fantastic.
Yeah, the reason why, Deshaun Jackson is one of the best small receivers of all time, right? He was a great route runner. He was stronger than what people gave him credit for.
Yeah.
He got open. Xavier Worthy's not Deshaun Jackson. He's just not. I know people wanted him to be. He's not a great route runner. He's not a 4-2-1 guy on the field. Like, that's why the 40 thing was just kind of weird to me. Like, yes, he ran a 4-2-1 because he didn't eat anything for a week. He was skinny as hell. He's not the same size he was at the combine. He's like a 4-3 guy now. Like, people don't realize what these guys go through to get ready for that combine in the 40. He made himself some money. Good for him. He probably went from a late second round to a first round pick, right? He's an end around guy. He's not even Zay Flowers. And Zay Flowers is a good route runner. He's a good receiver, right? He's definitely not Tyreek Hill. I think he's like a faster, and maybe a little bigger version of the guy that's not been playing as Hollywood Brown, right?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Chase Claypool.
Oh, I mean, Chase Claypool is just.
You weren't prepared for that stray to hit you.
No, I didn't expect that one. That one came out of nowhere. That one kind of hit me on the ear, like almost on the, No, I mean, I don't have any concerns about Mahomes either. I think he's gonna be fine. He usually kind of starts off slow anyway. He doesn't really have fast. He doesn't come out the gates hot in any year, really. He usually kind of comes out the gates pretty slow. And then by October, November, December, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be in the MVP conversation. I think they're going to be okay. I am concerned about Kelsey. I think Kelsey has hit a wall. If there's anybody that's hit a wall, I think Kelsey has hit a wall. I'm not blaming Taylor Swift. I think he's just old. I think Kelsey's definitely hit a wall.
In fantasy, I like to call them dead bodies. They just haven't hit the floor yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what his peak was, and it's back there somewhere.
Back there somewhere. Yep. Yeah. It's like probably
I think everybody is looking for a Tony Gonzalez. There's no tight ends built like that in the NFL anymore.
I would still argue Tony Gonzalez is the greatest tight end ever. I'd rank him ahead of Kelsey. I'd rank him ahead of anyone.
He's my number one as well. I'm honestly very surprised people rank Kelsey so high. I understand he's good, great Hall of Famer, but there's like maybe 4 or 5 guys I would rank ahead of. I mean, he's on a short list. There's like 4 or 5 guys I would rank before Travis Kelsey. Like I'm shocked people are saying he may be the greatest ever. I'm very surprised at that, and yeah, I think
prisoners of the moment, man.
His longevity has been impressive, and I think that's what people are getting lost in, because tight ends generally don't have longevity. And so I think people are getting a little lost in the sauce on that. But, I mean, if you're going to bring that energy for Kelsey, where are we getting that energy from my man Mercedes Lewis?
Hey, it's so crazy that Mercedes Lewis is drafted in 2006, and he's still playing now. And that was the year my cousin was drafted into the league. And my cousin is clearly not playing anymore. But it's crazy that Mercedes Lewis is still playing football in 2006, and Tua can't even stay on the field. That's
a solid argument for the greatest blocking tight end of all time.
Yeah, that's probably why he's still in the league. It's probably why he still has a job. He can block. He can definitely block. But that's going to do it for us today. We really appreciate everybody who came on the comments, commenting on YouTube, commenting on our page. Subscribe to our YouTube page. We really appreciate it. And also subscribe to our personal pages, Objectively Biased Sports from The Fog, and of course, BEZ Sports by myself. Definitely try to put on the best content out there every week. Definitely appreciate you guys appreciate the follows you guys are giving us. Really, really appreciate it. Our two-man front page is growing pretty much every week. So we appreciate all that love. And we're gonna do this again next week. We really enjoy doing this every Sunday night. Give you guys immediate reaction of the games. A lot of fun. And week 4 is gonna be coming. It's gonna be coming pretty soon here. Obviously, starting on Thursday. And we'll get ready for those games, man. You guys have any last words?
I got no words. I saw the Saints game. I got no words. Well, that's actually, Dallas. Dallas is giving away that Philly's giving Dallas a chance to take the division, and Dallas is just not doing it.
Yeah.
I do have some last words here. Even though the Chiefs are likely going to be 3-0, I think watching the Chiefs, watching the 49ers, watching the top teams from last year, this year is open. They look vulnerable. Very vulnerable.
The Chiefs could easily be 0-2 right now, but nobody wants to talk about that. But they can easily be an 0-2 football team, possibly even 0-3. They'll lose this game.
And a lot of people thought the Ravens were going to be a lock for the Super Bowl, even though all the turnover they had on their roster. Things are wide. I mean, quite frankly, if you're talking about a pole position team in the AFC, it might be the Bills. And everyone thought they were dead.
And I might add to that. My last word is I told everybody last year, and I got called a hater for this, pump the brakes on young CJ Stroud. He's good, but these last 2 games, he's been a little shaky because you know what? Everybody has film on CJ Stroud now. And that's just how the NFL works. I think he's going to be okay, but let's pump the brakes on making him a top 5 quarterback in this league because he's not, in my opinion. He's not a top 5 quarterback yet. He's there. I will say this. One thing, I will say this. Brock Purdy will end up as a top 5 quarterback if he's not already by the end of the year. He sold me today. He didn't have Greg Kittle. He didn't have Debo. Who else is out? He didn't have Christian McCaffrey.
No McCaffrey.
Like, he held his own. I mean, wow. Yeah, he really impressed me today. I watched that game. I was like, okay, he's got it. He gets it. He gets it. It's not the system anymore. He's doing what he needs to do. So shout out to Brock Purdy. He's definitely gonna be a top 5 quarterback by the end of the year. Maybe it may be his MVP year. If they can string together some wins, like and obviously McCaffrey's gonna be out for some time. Debo's gonna be out. Kittle's gonna be out, right? This might be a year for him to kind of squeeze that MVP in there because he's the guy right now. So that's my final word. Really appreciate you guys. I know it's over there. I know it's late over there on the East Coast. Definitely be back next week, and we'll see you guys then.